and welcome to my studio. We're getting ready for Christmas. We have lots of fun projects. There's so much we're going to have and help you do. So come on, let's get started. For our frosted lace, we're going to be using caulking, which is a latex caulk silicone, and you always want to make sure that it is white. It does come in clear and different colors, so we want to make sure that we have white. And I use Alex Plus, and I pick mine up in Walmart, and I pay less than $2 for it, so it makes it very affordable to be able to use this, and this will go a long ways. So once you're ready to use this, I use it with a caulk gun, and I just cut the tip off. The farther up you cut it, the more is going to come out at a time, so that's up to you. And just simply set it into your gun and start to pull that until the caulk starts to come out the front, and we'll put that directly into our mold. I did the owls, and this is one of our molds, and we've got 3 different owls, and we've got some trees or some feathers. You could use these two either way. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put our caulking on. It doesn't take that much, and see if we need a little bit more, and we'll cover that up in a second here. And then I'm going to take my scraper, and the molds and the scrapers are both found at miriamjoy.com. And what we want to do is fill up all of the little holes in the mold and keep the stuff off the top as much as possible to make it easier to clean later on. And you can see how little that actually is using, but I want to show you I've got spaces here, here, and here that I still need to fill up. And I'm using something to do it on, and if you don't, you do it on a table or something, make sure you wipe it off right afterwards. You can add coloring to this, but you want to do it before you put it in, because it's kind of, the caulking is sealed afterwards, so it's better to apply the color before hand. And this is going to take us right up to that very last one, and we want to get this off as much as possible, but you don't want to pick up or scrape any of the other that you already have on. And I need to make sure that my scraper is as wide as my mold, so I don't run a line down the middle or anything like that. But that is good to go, and so we're going to let that dry, and we'll talk about how long to dry when we get ready to take it out. Once I'm all done with that, I'm going to go ahead and clean this off. You could peel it off later if you wanted to, but it's easier to do it now. And then to put your caulking away, I just simply take a plastic baggie. You could use saran wrap, anything you wanted to seal it, and I just put a rubber band around it till it's airtight. I've literally had one over a year and it was still good, and then I just stored it just like that. So that's up to you what you want to put on it, but then you can save it for your next project. I usually let these dry overnight, and you can kind of tell when they're dry because they'll pop up really easy and nothing will be sticking to the bottom. So that's kind of how you can tell they dry. It's going to depend on your weather. It's going to depend on how warm it is and everything else, on how fast, because I know I'll get questions on that. So just when it kind of reaches that stage. And I've tried to hurry this along, like putting it in a low temp oven and stuff, and it just hasn't worked well for me. So but now that we've done that, we're going to remove all of this extra stuff on here, and think about it kind of like clearing a stained glass window so you can see through it. All of these little guys in here where if there's a part that's still there, you're going to have kind of gunk in there, and it won't be nice and crisp. So that's what we're trying to get rid of, is all of those little pieces like that, so that it is nice and clean. And if you happen to take it out, you can still stick it back in. And what I do is I just take a little bit of water and I just dip my finger the smallest amount I can, and I rub to make this all clean. And we just go all the way through all of our owls and just clean this whole part off. But you're looking, any of these little guys that we need to clean up, and it makes a little bit of a mess, so the white stuff does. You might want to do it on a tray if you're sitting in the living room or something, so you don't have to go vacuum after you're done. My husband's vacuumed lots lately. I'll sit down and do these a bunch at a time. I'll do all my molds and have them set up so I can use them when I want them, that they're all done. And see this little guy right here? He's got a bunch of little ones here. And I want to try and get those as well as I can. I might not be able to get quite that part there, but the rest of that looks pretty good. So let's take a look at him. And we have him all cleared out. So that looks really, really good. And he's pretty firm. He's going to stretch, but you'll be really surprised on how nice these really, really do turn out. They don't break really easy. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a thing of cling wrap, and when I'm doing this, I make a bunch of it up so that I have it for lots of my projects. So that's something you can think about, or whatever. You can do a little bit or a lot, and I do my different sizes as well. And I'm using the shell or the star tip, but let's go back to our silicone caulking, and we're just going to put as much or as little as you want into this. And this doesn't go bad. We'll talk about how to seal this up so you can use it again. And if you wanted to do, like I said, a bunch of it ahead of time, you could. So, got some there. Make sure it's all the way off. We're going to, again, make sure we cover this up and seal that so that it doesn't go bad on us. Alright, set that aside. So we're going to come over to here. We're going to fold that and then start to roll that. And then on the ends, we're just going to do that until they come to a little tail. And we're going to put this little tail into our disposable frosting bags. And this keeps the bag clean, and you can use it time and time and time again, and you don't have a mess, and you don't have to wash it out. And that is really, really nice. So kind of think about that. And I'm going to pull that all the way through. And then I'm going to pull that pretty tight. And then I'm going to cut that end. And once we get that cut, I'm going to put my tip on. And this is a number 16 by Wilton. It's a shell tip or star tip. And then what we're going to put these on is your freezer paper or your wax paper, whatever you want to kind of call that, or whichever kind you may be using And I always kind of have to weight the tips down for a bit till I get started. We do want to lightly spray this with vegetable oil. Not very much, but enough that it doesn't stick to the paper. You don't want to do too much because you don't want your frosting to turn yellow on you. So that's the reason that we put that on there, so it doesn't stick to the paper. And then we're just going to come in here and simply do row after row, either enough for your project or to make it ahead of time. So I usually start working up at the top and go as far as I can. So you're going to push and pull and push and pull and push and pull all the way across your paper. That first one, I had a little bit more of my vegetable spray on and it wanted to move on me, so that's why we don't want very much vegetable spray. And we've got all of this in our bag so we can do as many different sizes for projects, and I am using these also for Christmas ornaments, so look for those. And I think they're just really great. And what we're going to do is we're going to let this dry. And once it's dry, you can use it on your projects. Now, to dry at least 1 day, maybe 2, depending on if you're using the bigger sizes. So think about that, how humid it is, how warm it is. I can't give you an exact dry time. If you wanted to color it, you could put food coloring in it, alcohol, dyes, inks of any kind, leather, dyes, whatever you wanted to color it. But the food coloring works just as great as well. So if you don't have a part you like, let's just take it off and we'll set him aside. And if you don't like your whole strand and you want to put it back in your thing, you can as well. So just think about all of those fun things. Another thing that we can do to this is add glitter. I like to keep the white with the white. I use a fine white glitter on my little pieces as well if you want it more Christmassy looking or whatever. But just go ahead and continue with those until you have enough for your project or you've used it all up or whatever you want to do. Now to store this, we simply take our tip off, and you want to push this out and clean it really good. Put it into the trash, not put it down your sink. And then we want to clean it out with our brush. And we have those at miriamjoy.com as well. And then you can take a little bit of the edge of the saran wrap. I want to make sure it's covered real good here. I usually fold it down 2 or 3 times so that you can see. And then I put this over the top, and then I screw this back on so that it is sealed tight. Make sure that is tight. Put that in a plastic bag and squish out all your air, and you can save that for months. You'd be surprised how long that lasts. So let's go ahead and get some of those done and get those ready to go. Now that your shells are dry, and remember that's going to take different times depending on moisture, how warm it is, and all kinds of fun things, but you want them to be very dry, and if you made up a bunch at a time, it's so much easier. We also are going to offer at Miriam Joy the little items and the shells. We know that people have a hard time sometimes with arthritis or your hands, and so we're going to offer these items for sale. If you don't see them on the page, send us a little email at art@miriamjoy.com and we'll get you hooked up so you can make your own. So on the owls, we want to have a Christmas bulb that is big enough for the shell to go around and for owls to be on it. Now, my Christmas bulbs, I wait till Christmas is over and buy, or I go to the thrift store and buy them. The thrift store is a great place because there's so many bulbs and they look brand new, and you can get them for practically next to nothing. So that's something to really think about. So we want to kind of look at our shell pieces, and I like to use the bigger pieces. And you want one that goes all the way around, and if it breaks off, we can always glue it back on. So we just need one that goes all the way around or right down the middle. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take that piece, and we're going to take our two owls, and there is a front and a back. The front is smooth and the back is a little bit indented, so you know which is the front and the back. And we want to spray adhesive on these items, and we're going to do a couple of things, and try different spray adhesives. You might have one that really works good where you live, or one that you really like. I'm going to use some Loctite, and you can usually find that in your craft store or in the art supply or Walmart or anything like that. But we're also going to use a little bit of E6000 with this to make sure that it stays permanent. So I'm going to take this outside. I'm going to put this on a piece of cardboard and then just spray this so that it's nice and wet. But that's something you want to do outside. I'm going to find the middle of my bulb and kind of have an idea of where it needs to go around. This is a chalk marker. It works really great. We do have those at miriamjoy.com, so that I can start this guy and kind of know exactly where he needs to go and try to keep him as straight as possible here. And so I am going to cut him off or pull him off on that one right there. And I have this side too wide and this side too narrow. This side looks okay, so we want to adjust him a little bit here. And this stuff, just leave it and it'll rub off in just a little bit there. It's not anything you have to worry about. So now we've got that more in the middle. So we're going to put a little bit of E6000 down, and we're going to kind of anchor this to make sure that none of our shell comes off. And we don't want to do the whole thing where it comes out. We just want to kind of politely put some down that middle, especially on that top piece. Get that right back on where we had it. And if you had any that was loose, you wanted to do the same thing there. And that piece is a separate piece, so we're going to do that guy there, and then this little piece here. And you can piece these together if you have some that you've got little pieces but you don't have a long chain. They're really easy to piece together. That's what's nice about it. Okay, now one of the other things I wanted to tell you is these sometimes, especially on these ends, can want to pop out. So I will use my masking tape and hold those down with just a little bit, just to keep them in place. You can see that guy's moving a little bit there. I might put another one on him there. But you want to hold those down. You don't want those popping out. If it did pop out later, it's something you can go back and do. It's not a big deal. So whatever works for you. I wanted to kind of keep these a little bit lighter so that I can put my owls on and kind of see where we want them to go. So we're going to kind of come and do the same thing with the owls now. I want to kind of put them in areas that are a little bit bigger, that would be on the top and the bottom, that would be easier to come off. So like on the tips of the ears, the wings, the feet, anywhere like that, that would be just a little bit. You don't want that so thick that that is showing through. Now we really want to kind of line this up, and if you wanted to put a dot on where that middle is, you can do that. Now before I push, I'm going to kind of look on both of those sides, top and bottom. I think I'm going to bring it down just a tad. Make sure that he's still straight here. And I think that looks pretty good. So we're going to squish him all the way down now. And we're going to let him dry. And if you see any of those little toes or anything, kind of check on them. Push them back down, and those should be really good. You shouldn't have any problem with those staying on, but just keep checking them. Maybe 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes would be pretty good time to check them. I'm going to do, this looks like a horned owl to me. Owls are really, really popular right now, especially with the younger people. If you need something for younger people and you don't have anything, or you're nature person, this would be a great thing to do for them. I'm also going to use these and make my little Christmas tree. I've been working on it over here, but I don't have it anywhere near finished where I would like it. So this time I'm going to mark the sky a little bit first. I want to say my middle looks right about there. Okay, and I'm going to figure out where the middle of my owl kind of is, and get him there. Make sure if you're going to put some feathers or different things on him that you leave room for those on the top. And if you needed to even pull him down a little bit, you could pull him down a little bit. You can glue little things, little beads in his eyes. You also can mark him with a black permanent marker. There's all kinds of fun things that you can do with it. After I let this dry a day before I added my embellishments onto it. On this one, I just took 2 little feathers and I hot glue gunned them there. You may need to E6000 those to stay on a little bit better. They're not working really good with that, but see how cute that looks with just little tiny white feathers. And like I said, those were just simply put on. So these would be really, really fast to make. On this one, I took 2 little tiny pieces of the greenery. You could trim an edge of a wreath or garland, and you could even cut it down with the scissors if it's still too big. And then I added some little tiny pine cones and some holly. And on this side, I did a little bit of kind of a crystal. I did do the 3 little pine cones instead of 2, so it's not so even, and then it kind of is more pleasing to your eye that way. So aren't those really, really, really cute? You do not have to varnish these. These are made out of your caulking, which is already a sealant in it, so you can just leave them just like that, so the color of your bulbs won't change or you have any issues with those. You also could use the leaves that were in the mold and just wait till this is dry and then do them the same way. Spray them and then put a little bit of E6000. You've got the two different ones, and those would go nice on there as well to kind of give it a different look. You could even do a double set and have two on each side of the same kind. So there's all kinds of fun things you can do with that. This is my most popular mold. This is the one that I'm doing my most videos with at Christmas time and other than Christmas as well. So it is a fun thing to really use and do this season. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. Come on over to miriamjoy.com and pick up your owl mold there, and you can check out all the other fun projects we have as well. Have a Merry Christmas from Miriam Joy.